What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Multiverse Monologues, the podcast show where we like to travel across the multiverses and fandoms that we love to talk about the movies and television shows that accompany those universes. We here on Multiverse Monologues are back with the Marvel movie marathon, and we are back in the MCU. It's a good place to be, as it always is, and this week especially, because I think this week we have the unique opportunity to not only dissect an older film, man, talking about this movie feels like yesterday since this one came out, but we're here to talk about it, and we're here because this one is a unique opportunity, because this time we get to dissect what came before, but also there is a debate with this film. There's a big debate with Captain America Civil War. Are you Team Cap or are you Team Iron Man? I remember it like it was yesterday. Everyone I asked leading up to this, well, whose side are you on? Whose side are you on? Sometimes they would be, well, this team has Spider-Man, so I'm on that team. And every time I was kind of like, okay, well, that's kind of a stupid reason.
I'm Team Pete.
Once you, there you go. You could be Team Pete if you want to. So we're here to discuss this, go in depth, and I'm just so excited to talk about this, because not only are we discussing which side we're on, but it's also we're discussing a really, really good film in Captain America Civil War. And it's obviously me, Ben Rayside, as always on the Marvel Movie Marathon, and always joining us on this epic marathon is, first off, Mr. Ethan Westloff. Ethan, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm super pumped, as always, to be back here talking MCU. This is a fun movie, guys. Not often do we get to watch a movie that we genuinely love, but that talking about is just genuinely, I think, going to be a great time today. But before we get rolling, I got one thing to say to you guys. Mission report, December 16th. 1991.
Dude, the way Zemo delivers that line, man, and he says it so many times, every time it's like, whoa, holy catfish. And when we find out eventually what that mission report is, man, it really hits you. We're going to talk about it, though, as well as me and Ethan are going to talk about it, but also Micah Head is going to talk about it. Micah, how you doing?
Ethan, I'm going to hold you over a sink and let you drown from your nose.
Don't do it.
Ben, I'm going to punch your perfect teeth out.
Man, my teeth are far from perfect, man. I've got a lot of work to do with these guys. But you know what? There's a lot of people who put a lot of work into this film. We've got the Russo brothers returning for their second movie in Civil War. And it seems just about everyone in this movie is returning enough to where the comparisons are made that this is Avengers 2.5.
Yeah, now, that was the debate that went on at my school. Was this an Avengers movie or was it a Captain America movie? Because nobody cared about Team Cap, Team Iron Man, because nobody ever saw the movie where I grew up. It was just, why was this not an Avengers movie?
And it definitely feels like it. But I have hopefully a convincing argument as to
There's a reason why. Yeah,
there is elements, credence to both those arguments, and we're going to get into that. But before we do, I'd like to just say, and usually we give a little plug here before we get into the nitty-gritty, and I would say check out TikTok. We're on TikTok, if you guys didn't know. We usually don't plug that, but go on TikTok, Multiverse Monologues. Mr. Wensloff has been killing it recently with the shorts.
Let me just say this. I only have the content for the shorts because we kill it each and every week on the podcast. So there are good clips to pull from
Humble
the
brags.
podcast. There we go. Yeah.
I like that. And there's a lot of good snippets from our previous conversations. If you're new to the Marvel Movie Marathon, going back and reliving some of those, we've had a lot of good engagement with the Daredevil movie and some of our takes there recently. There's been some pretty interesting takes on there, so go back, check those out. TikTok, Multiverse Monologues.
Before you put a comment on those videos, maybe before you jump into nostalgically defending the movie, watch it again today.
That's what we're doing here. We're watching these movies to make sure that they're as good as we remember, or as bad as we remember.
And there's been a lot that have been pretty bad. But I don't want to speak too soon, but I feel like this one, Civil War, is going to be a good one. But we're going to find out, gentlemen. Let's say we hit the hyperdrive, open our sling ring, get into that TARDIS, and head over to the MCU.
All right, I've run out of patience. On to Ruse! Hey everyone.
After the events of Avengers Age of Ultron, the world is divided on the issue of superhuman oversight. Captain America believes that the Avengers should be free to operate without government interference, while Iron Man believes that they need to be held accountable for their actions. When a new threat emerges, the Avengers must decide whether to put their differences aside and work together or risk tearing themselves apart. That is your plot summary for Captain America Civil War. Very, very, 3,000 foot view. There's a lot that gets into this movie. And, before we do, there's a lot to this movie. Both on either side of Captain America's side and Iron Man's side, I can say this. After this most recent rewatch, I'm on a certain side for sure, but I definitely can see both sides, like definitely. So we're going to get into that, and I'm going to shoot it over to Mr. Wenslaw first.
Yes.
What do you remember about this movie? And after you say that, what team are you on?
Yeah, so like you said, leading up to the release of this movie, it was all right, Team Iron Man or Team Cap, and really, I didn't look into what the movie was about. I looked at those posters. I looked at who was on each side, who was fighting for
team
who.
is winning?
Who do I like more? And I still to this day, I die hard. Like, I love Tony Stark. I love that character. So I was like, all right, I'm Team Iron Man going into the movie. And then as your first time watching the movie, whatever reason you can, you justify why you're Team Iron Man. So yeah, I was Team Iron Man at the time. And I'll say this, most recent rewatch, like you said, it is a little less clear. I love the way this movie sets this narrative, because I'm sitting there, okay, yeah. The thing is, I don't think there's a right answer. I think there are so many different issues in the movie where, all right, at this point in the movie, I'm Team Cap. In this point, I'm Team Iron Man. So at the end of the day, I still think I lean Iron Man, but they tell the story so well from both sides to where it's just a misunderstanding. It just is. Baron Zemo did his job. Daniel Bruhl just killed it in that role. I recently watched Inglourious Bastards for the first time. He's also great in there.
Yes.
Yeah. But he gets inside this Avengers organization and perfectly pits them against each other to where, I don't know, I'm Team Avengers, but I don't know. I can see, like, come on, Bucky killed Tony's parents. Cap's defending his friend, Micah told me this the other day. He's like, in a perfect world, yeah, you're Team Iron Man when you can trust the government. And I do think
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
Wow.
there are so many points. there are so many points in this movie where I feel like, yeah, I am Team Iron Man, because they make good points. Oh, where's Hulk? Where's Thor? You have these two atomic bombs just gone. We need to put some kind of regulations on this. And you have Wanda at the beginning of the film killing the Wakandans. Like, there are points. So I think right now I'm gonna go Team Iron Man.
Okay. That's good. Now, we're going to have a great discussion, folks. You're in for something. You're in for a treat. But when you first saw this movie back in 2016, we're talking, it was the May release slot. It was hype. How many times did you see this in the theaters?
This was one time. One time. Yeah. I mean, you don't have unlimited resources in high school.
That's true.
I couldn't even drive. 2016.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was
freshman. I think.
Oh, I was in
my
eighth grade
freshman
then.
year.
I'm a year behind you guys.
That's true. So
yeah, this was a one time, but I've seen it enough now. It's probably fifth time watching it. So I could see it more times, but
okay.
Yeah, I'm impressed with this movie, honestly, with the stories they tell, the characters that are introduced, the amount of characters in this movie. It never got to a point where, holy cow, they're losing the narrative. There's so much in here. I think they have that time at the airport where character, so many characters fighting, but then for the big final act, they pull all that away. Mm-hmm. It's just Cap, Bucky, Tony, and Black Panther. It's a good way to close it out.
And
so
Zemo.
Agreed.
And Zemo, yeah, of course.
Agreed. Now, Micah, I think I knew kind of going into this where Ethan's loyalties lied. What do you remember about this? Did you see this in theaters, and what team are you?
I don't know if I saw this in theaters.
Really?
I don't know if I saw this one in theaters. Because at this point, No, I definitely saw this in theaters because I was hype about Spider-Man. Yeah, I saw this in theaters. I remember the trailer.
Under Roos!
Under Roos.
Oh yeah.
I it wasn't opening weekend. Like I wasn't super hype on Marvel, but I did make an effort to go see it in the theaters with my parents and family and all that. But as for Team Cap or Team Iron Man, I've maybe seen this twice.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 times in my whole life. And I may have seen, my dad watched a lot of Marvel movies, just he would put them on and just kind of have them at the end of the day, whatever sort of thing. So I would kind of pay attention, but not really. I would say, oh, cool, action scene, zone out for a while, and then whatever.
Zone out.
Yeah, I didn't really pay attention to movies back then. But looking at it now, I think that there's 3 points that are important in this movie. Like 3 definite tone changes where you can say, all right, this is where I'm making my decision if I'm Team Cap or Team Iron Man. And it's certain lines. So I wanna read the lines real quick. We've got the first part of the movie, right? Where we see Wanda causing all this havoc unintentionally, but they're also saving the lives of so many by stopping these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Then the Sokovia Accords are proposed to the Avengers and they're discussing them. And Vision says this thing that really sticks with me. I think this is one of the strongest lines in the movie. In the 8 years since Mr. Stark announced himself as Iron Man, the number of known enhanced persons has grown exponentially. And during the same period, a number of potentially world-ending events has risen at a commensurable rate. And then Steve says, are you saying it's our fault? I'm saying there may be a causality.
Mm-hmm.
Our very strength invites challenge. Challenge incites conflict. And conflict breeds catastrophe. Oversight. Oversight is not an idea that can be dismissed out of hand. Rhodey sees that as an absolute win. Boom.
Boom.
But is that a win for them? Because that line really foreshadows what's going to go on with the government. They oversee, they don't even consider the fact that it would have been not Bucky. All right, next part. So we see a little bit more of the plot unfold. We see where everyone lies. We see, okay, this is the Team Cap. This is the Team Iron Man. Iron Man's still recruiting. He goes and he finds this rookie hotshot out in New York. He finds Peter Parker. He's talking to him. He's talking about, all right, what's your story? You know, what are you doing? He says, my whole life I've had these powers for 6 months. I read books. I build computers, and I would love to play football, but I couldn't then, so I shouldn't be able to now.
Right, because you're different.
I know, but that applies to the plot too.
Mm-hmm.
They could then,
absolutely.
But should they now? Right, because you're different. Yeah, but I can't tell anybody that, so I'm not. Then he thinks, and he says this line.
Look, when you can do the things that I can, but you don't, and then the bad things happen, they happen because of you.
So this is the Team Iron Man line.
Yeah.
Or is it the Team Cap line? I mean, like, it could be both, right? And then the third point I want to point out, I won't get into super detail in it, but it's when Iron Man basically just switches sides at the end and says, oh yeah, Cap, you're right. Really, that's before the video.
The Bucky reveal.
The Bucky reveal, yeah.
Okay, so do you
Those are the points in the movie where you could say, okay, I'm ready to switch sides, or yeah, I'm reinforcing, this is where I'm going to be. And at the end of the day, or all right, so at the beginning of the day, I was totally team, which one's Vision? He's on Cap, right?
Yeah. No,
Team
Team Iron Man.
Iron Man.
Team Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
So he is for control. He wants the Sokovia Accords to be instated. He wants the Avengers to be controlled a little bit more. And that seems okay from the get-go. You're like, okay, yeah, we're all for keeping things in check because of all these extraterrestrial, world-threatening things. And then we see, can the government handle that in this universe? No, they can't.
And narratively, it works so
Narratively,
well. Because
Zemo targets.
Yeah.
This is exactly what Zemo wants. And if not for the Sokovia Accords, Zemo wouldn't have succeeded. Because Zemo wants them to be against each other. And that's what happens.
Yeah. And
after this movie, here, let me finish real quick. After this movie, I would say you have to be Team Cap. For me, you have to be Team Cap. Because if you don't live long enough to be, if you don't die a hero, then you live long enough to become the villain. And if you're the hero, you're gonna be placed blame. Like, you just have to.
To me, this movie is so cool.
It's all about blame
because it marks the pivot in these character arcs. Captain America, he's America's man, right? He's gonna fight for the country, for law and order. That's what he's fighting for.
Yeah.
And Iron Man, he's not the guy to crawl on the wire. He just cut the wire. But at this point in this movie, this is when the two guys, they switch positions, because you just had Cap go through Hail Hydra, go through Winter Soldier, that the biggest government organization knew about S.H.I.E.L.D. was corrupted from inside. They fell. So he's at this vulnerable state where, of course, he's not going to submit to the government. Why would he? But then Tony is at a state where he's progressing more into a person who's willing to give up that selfishness, that control. And he has a really great conversation by the elevator with that mother.
Oh.
And she's like, my
that's
son
another point
died.
too,
My
yeah.
son died here, and it was your fault. And that sits with him. So there's not a right answer. I think you're right in the fact that you got to lean more towards Cap, but there's still so much happening. Like,
It's not just black and white.
it's not black and white. But Ben, go ahead, take it away.
So for me, I'm going to quote Iron Man here and say there's no decision-making process on this. Kind of already made up my mind. I've been a Cap guy ever since 2011. So I went in like you did. I'm on Team Cap's side. And I am totally team, like this movie is definitely, now it does a good job of, I totally see where Tony Stark is coming from his perspective. He created Ultron. There's a lot of blame on Tony in the past, especially because of Age of Ultron. If you had someone come up to you and blame the death of their son on you, he even says it. He's like, we'll never know because we dropped a building on him when we were kicking ass. He is so guilt-stricken from the Avengers past. He's like, whatever form that takes, I'm game. I'm done. Yeah. So I see where he's coming from.
Because Avengers 1, he was so... Iron Man 3, we saw him.
And so I think the big, and I totally get where he's coming from, but I am totally on Team Cap, because the one line where Team Cap says, yeah, but this document is made by people with agendas, and agendas change. The government's always going to be there. And if they force us to do something we don't like, that's always going to happen. And the part that really solidifies it for me is when at the end of the film, Tony realizes Cap is right and immediately goes behind their back and goes to visit Cap because it serves his goals. And so that's the thing. You can't sit here and wait for a committee to make these quick decisions. Captain America is absolutely correct when saying that the safest hands are still our own. These are you're going to have to trust us. There's a great moment in the Man of Steel film at the end of the film where the government they find Superman and they're like, how are we supposed to trust you? And he's like, you're just going to have to do it. I was born on Kansas. I'm about as American as I get, but I could wipe you out in a second. There does need to be a level of trust, and the government's never going to have that. Who's going to stop these heroes? Now, I get that Ultron is Tony's fault. There needed to be oversight there, but Loki is something the government has no control on. If you were to wait long enough, the city would be under his control right then and there. The Avengers took that moment, absolutely went to the city first and foremost. If you remember, the government's first reaction to the Battle of New York was to nuke New York. That is absolutely wrong. So I get where Tony's coming from, but I'm absolutely Team Cap. And can I just say that, putting that aside, this movie marks a turning point for me in my relationship with the MCU. When this movie came out, I went and saw this movie 4 times in the theaters.
Wow.
It was so impactful to me that after this, and even in phase 3, because we're in phase 3 now.
This is the
MCU,
kickoff to phase 3. This is insane.
Everything after this is just pardon my balls to the walls crazy.
So my first note on my sheet I wrote, it says, even after all these years, when that Marvel Studios intro plays, I still get giddy.
This is the first
I
one,
still
right?
get giddy inside. I'm like, yes. It's not the new
Doctor
animated
Strange
style,
has,
but it's still, when you see the logo go up, you can't help but get excited. And it's cool to know that today, when we've had a lot of stinkers recently, that I still get those feelings watching that.
I went and did a little exercise with this one in particular because I remember being in driver's ed in February or whatever, and I got the notification sitting there, Captain America Civil War trailer 2. And I remember the internet going crazy. I hadn't seen it. So I was so excited to get out of driver's ed, went into my car. First thing I did was look at the trailer, and Spider-Man pops up at the end on the loose. And I just remember, this is the greatest thing ever. This shit, it shifts. Star Wars, whatever. Marvel, I'm on the hype train and it really doesn't stop until Endgame.
Especially the next movie that comes out.
I took a screenshot of Spidey holding Cap shield from the trailer. That was my wallpaper on my iPod 4. My Touch 4, yeah.
Dude, it really does mark the turning point to where the MCU goes full out. This is where we're going. We're going to plow through. This is the road to the end game, pretty much.
Yeah, until Endgame, it's pretty consistent with that vision, I feel.
It's so good. And there's so many elements to praise. First off, right off the bat, you have 2 huge characters in the MCU introduced in Black Panther and obviously Tom Holland's Spider-Man.
And if you're Micah, there's a third character introduced in there too.
Yeah, I didn't see Ant-Man before this, watching it in theaters. So I was like, who's this dude? He could shrink? That's cool.
What did you
Orange
think?
slices?
So what did you think of? Let's start with Black Panther, because huge character. He's introduced. What did you think of Black Panther when he was first introduced?
I liked him then. I love him now. It is so good. Just the way because we had seeds sprinkled in the earlier movies, like you have Saw. No, what's his name? Claw.
Yeah,
Claw purchasing vibranium in Age of Ultron, and he loses his arm. And then Andy Serkis. So Wakanda's coming, and then you hear Wakanda again. But back in the day, I had no idea what the heck Wakanda was. I don't know. I didn't know it was linked to this. But now it's so cool. So the Infinity Saga, rewatching it is literally so rewarding. It's so cool. But T'Challa is fantastic in this movie, and that speech. I don't want to misquote his speech at the end when he's talking to Zemo, when he's like, "Vengeance has filled me, but I'd let it." I'm butchering it. I am.
Put it in, but it's vengeance has consumed me. It's consuming them. Vengeance has consumed you. It's consuming them. I am done letting it consume me.
So good, right there.
And Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, one of the positive elements of that is that line carries over into that film about the vengeance is consuming you. Like, really good stuff, man.
Yeah.
I think especially his moment with Black Widow. My father thought so, where you would travel the green belt and then where you would run forever. Like, that speech, totally enraptured me. The music in the background. Don't bother, Ms. Romanoff. Mm-hmm. I'll kill her myself.
Yeah, you know what? I love how this movie shows, not tells, how Black Panther forgives all these different characters for what they allegedly did, but then were proven guilty or innocent. And that's awesome to me. That's great character writing. And you know who wrote this? Our boys.
Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely.
Our boys. That's right. Christopher Marcus, Stephen McFeely. They're great. I love them. The GOATs.
They did Thor: The Dark World. They also did Winter Soldier. And I think they do Infinity War and Endgame.
They did Cap. They did Dark World, Winter Soldier. What else? Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame, and that's it. Yeah,
they had their hands on a lot of the main big MCU, and almost all the Infinity Stone movies. They have their hands in.
Ethan hit most of the Black Panther stuff, but I also want to add that Chadwick Boseman was diagnosed with cancer that year too. So our entire time that we see him on screen, he had cancer. That's powerful. Like how we
I can't even imagine what he would go through. And I think that speaks to why he was so, in interviews, you can see it, he was very apprehensive of bringing this icon to life. And there's a great interview with him talking about how he visited a child who wanted so badly just to see Black Panther on screen because of what he did. And he was like, yeah, I'm going to sit there and embody this huge character. And he does it to perfection, man. He's so good. And another character who I think plays a very huge character to perfection is Tom Holland.
Tom Holland.
What do you think of Tom Holland,
wow,
man?
this is, looking at the new Spider-Man movies, this is so differently written, I feel. Tom Holland's Spider-Man started off very jittery, but still like thought out. You know what I mean? Like his lines, I said his line, when you can do the things I can, but you don't, then the bad things happen. They happen because of you.
Yeah.
I like how he has these motivations beyond what's shown. He would love to play football, but he didn't then, so he should now. There's things that you don't get in new Spider-Man. Also, Tom Holland's 20 in this movie.
He looks young, too.
He's 20. He's younger than I am right now.
I remember watching this movie and he said, man, algebra test, nailed it. And that day, going to see Winter Soldier in the theaters for opening day, I had an algebra test. I was in algebra. I was like growing up with Tom Holland, with Civil War. Yeah, with Civil War. I was growing up with, when he said that, I'm like, I'm done. Spider-Man's my age right there. Like, this is my guy, man. He was so good.
So this does, yes, it marks the entrance of Tom Holland, Spider-Man, into the MCU for the first time. Do you know how deep into the MCU we are? What number movie is this?
Yeah, I got you. I'm gonna look that up.
Yeah,
I have to imagine more than 10.
You come this far.
This is a 7. Oh, keep going.
We come this far into the MCU
15.
without Spider-Man. So 15 movies into the MCU, and finally Spider-Man is introduced. And so at the time, everyone super pumped. You're getting Spider-Man interacting with the Avengers. But now, you know, as everyone does years later, they look back on things like, man, that was probably super stupid doing that. I see so many critics attacking this moment because it showed the MCU just wanting to put Spider-Man on the big screen.
That was a big thing. I remember that.
Holding restraint. Because, yeah, you skip his origin story. First time we see him, he's interacting with the Avengers, and you have Tony Stark pulled into Spider-Man Homecoming. So Spider-Man never really became his own character, but I think that's fine. We've seen Spider-Man be his own character twice already, and not only does this mark the official debut of Spider-Man in the MCU, but it really marked the Andrew Garfield goodbye. You're out of here.
Yep.
Which people still are upset about, but no one at the time was upset about this.
At the time, no.
It was so exciting getting Spider-Man in the Avengers, and it still is. It still is.
And it also introduces the new conflicts of the Sonyverse trying to get into the MCU. Because Spider-Man should not have been in the MCU before this movie.
Something to do with Spider-Man.
Yeah, like before this movie, nobody ever thought that Spider-Man would be in the MCU because Sony owned them. Sony owned all of the Spider-Man stuff. Never should have happened. I think it's good that it did, though.
Well, that was it, and I love. Yeah, you kind of talked about it, but his motivation and how it ties into the plot. When you can do the things that I can, but you don't, then the bad thing, like that really ties well into the plot. I don't think he was originally going to have a huge part in this film, and then Sony actually pulled back, and they're like, we don't know if we want to do this deal. So Black Panther's part was actually beefed up. A lot of what you see wasn't actually supposed to be, because they were going to have Spider-Man be way more integral. And you can tell, because Spider-Man, he shows up with Tony Stark in that one scene in the apartment. He's in the airport battle, and then they have a post-credit scene. He's really not in this movie very much. And I think it does a service to this movie, because at the end of the day, this story is really about Captain America and I will say this, Iron Man.
If Spider-Man was in this anymore, he would have overshadowed everybody else. I feel like.
I don't even know about that.
At the time, he was still the big spotlight. Everyone, half the people going to this movie were like, all right, I want to see the Team Cap, Team Iron Man. Half the people were like, I want to see Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
That's why I went.
I mean, he outsells every other character in the comics.
Oh, yeah.
100 to 1. Like, there's no question Spider-Man is the way he is, but bringing him into this universe of already established huge characters, I think really serves him well. I think it would have been very different if you were to take Andrew Garfield and then throw him into this universe with these other. I think you need a new Spider-Man, and I think they did it well, very, very well.
Yeah.
His scene, I love his scene with Captain America, where they share. Well, where are you from? Queens, Brooklyn. Like that little. They're enemies, but I wish they would have gotten a little more between Cap and Spider-Man.
I love how they show Peter's ability to hold himself up in a fight. How he's fighting Bucky and he grabs his arm. He's like, "Whoa, is that a metal arm?
You got a metal arm? That is awesome,
That's
dude.
awesome." And Bucky's like, "How are you holding my arm steady like right now? Oh, what?" And then Rhodey and not Rhodey.
Anthony Mackie.
Yeah, Anthony. They're just
Falcon.
so done with him by the
I
time
don't know
that
if
fight's
you've
done.
ever been in a fight, but there's usually not this much talking, and that's perfect. That's Spider-Man right there. It's
Yeah,
perfect.
I think that he was written with just enough quips.
Yeah.
And I think there were too many quips for that fight scene with the addition of Ant-Man. I think they should have picked one or the
Oh.
other.
Listen,
Because I love the Ant-Man quips, but he would do a quip and then he would do a second quip on top of it, and that would kind of throw me over. Where like,
I don't know.
it wasn't enough to break it, but it was enough to be like, okay, that was like B tier.
Ant-Man to me in this movie, everything works with Ant-Man
Mm.
in this movie. Just his introduction of him sleeping in the van,
That was awesome.
getting up, he's like, "Ah, jeez," just feeling Captain America's muscles. I'm shaking your hand too long.
I feel like he wasn't written into the script. I feel like he was just like, Ant-Man just came out. Paul
Throw him
Rudd,
in.
you're in the next studio. Just
Like,
come over real quick. Let's
he-
record some stuff.
It really does feel like that. Like as Tony Stark's walking through the prison at the end of the film, and he's like, he's like, whatever his face said, never trust a Stark. And Tony's like, who are you again? Like it just is an afterthought.
Like Hank Pym says not to trust a Stark.
Yeah.
Who are you? That's so good. I love that. And he's so upset too.
Yeah,
He's
right.
like, oh.
Come on. Like, what happened there?
Right. Throwback to the Ant-Man post-credit scene when Falcon looks at Cap, says, "I think I know a guy."
And it's
What's up, Tic Tac?
it was a great audition.
So
but-
many one-liners with Ant-Man and yeah.
So let's shift gears here to Captain America and Iron Man. So you lean Team Iron Man, Ethan. Present that, because to me, clearly Cap is in the right here.
Yeah, so I think that all the points are valid, right? The government, you can't trust it. But I think that you do need regulations at a point, because Wanda, we see later, she gets very, very unhinged in the later movies. She just does. And you got to always factor Vision into it. This is a man who picked up Mjolnir, and yes, Cap picks up Mjolnir later. We know that. But Vision's got, he's got a point. Vision is on Team Iron Man. I mean, granted, Iron Man made him. Who knows what wiring he did. But I think, so this is first half of the movie, 100% Team Tony. And
Really?
then second half of the movie, I do lean more into Cap.
Yeah, until government fails, you can
Because when you hear Rhodey say it at the end of that first act, he's like, "Congratulations, Cap, you're a criminal," right? That moment, I think Cap's wrong in that. Yeah, they're coming after Bucky, but Cap's there. He can make sure that Bucky gets apprehended and that they don't kill him. He's there. He doesn't have to go through that big highway sequence where many people probably did get hurt. Many people probably did die.
many Audis got hurt in that
Yeah,
scene.
So here's what I'll say to that then. But if he was on the side of Team Iron Man in that situation, he probably wouldn't have been sent in there to go for Bucky. Too much history. I can totally see them saying that. So we're going to send in our death squad to just kill Bucky. There's just so many things that where I think of, like, if Cap wasn't there, out of the government's hands, Bucky would be dead. I think. And clearly Bucky is in the right. It wasn't his fault. Now, he did do a lot of bad things in the past, but he didn't bomb the UN. And that's where the government comes into it. And Cap has the knowledge, like, where I see a situation pointed south, I can't ignore it. He knows Bucky's innocent, but there's just so many times in this, and I think especially from Oh man, who William Hurt returns in this movie as General Thaddeus Ross from Incredible Hulk. Great poll, and he's presenting this information, New York, Washington D.C., Sokovia, and it's like, well, most of those, if the Avengers weren't there, you would have so much more crap on your hands. Like,
that scene is great for memes, by the way. Just the Avengers watching footage and reacting to it.
Yes.
I've seen so many great memes from that.
And when he looks back at Tony, and Tony looks up at him, he's like, yes. I keep coming back to, if the Avengers weren't there to stop it, what are you going to do here? Like,
It's about the damage control. That's what they're complaining about. Oh, you didn't... Yeah, okay, yeah, you saved the world, but you killed a bunch of people in the process. And it's the same like, yay, Patrick, we saved the city, and it's exploded. But there's we don't trade lives. They say that too, but they definitely do. They definitely do trade lives. And we'll see that in the following
what do you mean
movies.
by that? They trade lives.
They trade lives, the world's life for these people of Sokovia. Like, okay, yeah, we can have these people of Sokovia die and risk. There's so many things and you can't control everything. You can't control it, and that's how I said, in a perfect world, yes,
Right.
you
Yes.
would be team control the Avengers, right? Make sure that they have these checks and balances, but it doesn't work like that.
And Cap knows this so well, and this is the genius of the writing here. I mean,
Yeah.
he just went through
I mean,
Winter Soldier.
This is the movie that I want to say a lot about the previous movies too. Each character, Iron Man and Cap, lead up to this movie. They took all of the writing from the previous movies and they said, all right, what do these characters amount to? What do they look like?
Can I jump in real quick?
Sure, yeah,
Just
go for it.
that's why I'm so team Iron Man, because emotionally,
Yeah.
writing wise, I just totally see where this guy's coming from, totally see where he's at. Yes, the government will fail. Cap's right in that department. But then you have that mom talking to him. You have all this leading up to his own character journey, where he goes to, where he's at now. And then at the end of all of this, Bucky killed his parents. That is huge emotionally. Yes, he should have self-control, know that that's a different Bucky. But just character-wise, I connect and I can grab onto Tony so much in this movie. Whereas, yeah, outside, Team Cap makes more sense. But like the journey, I'm so there for Tony's journey. Go ahead, keep going.
And then with Cap, with Hydra, like the whole time, he thought that the good guys were good, and then he found out they were bad. And he was like, okay, now the bad guys are dead. But what if there's more bad guys than the good guys? And there are. There's definitely going to be more corruption in the government, in this universe. And you see that. I mean, even with the recent Secret Invasion, no matter how bad it was, it proves Cap's point even more, that the government was corrupt throughout this entire MCU saga. Who knows what kind of different universe it would have been if, like, say this were canon, right? And we didn't have this, like, past viewing that Skrulls were in it. If Skrulls were always in it and always written into this MCU plot, we could have seen Skrulls manipulating things throughout this whole timeline.
Yeah.
That would have been epic to see.
Yeah. I talking about Secret Invasion just makes me mad.
Whatever.
Yeah, I know. But I think there's credence to the level of what?
I just want to interject.
No, go ahead.
At the time I watched the movie, I was Team Iron Man because, I liked Iron Man more. He was cool. I asked my dad, said, Dad, whose team are you on? He read this to me. This is a pull from scripture. We don't read scripture much on the podcast, but this is what he said to me to defend Team Iron Man. He said, so Romans 13:1 says, everyone must submit himself to governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God.
Amen.
That's scripture right
Wow.
there. You can't argue that, Ben.
You know what? You're right.
I think one can argue with this, and that's the collective mind of the internet itself. And we've asked Google Bard. We've asked Google
we have
Bard.
not looked at this yet.
If you guys don't know, Google Bard is just Google's like AI chatbot thing.
AI, much like what's his face?
Our
Not
friend
Ultron. Not
Vision?
Ultron. Vision. There
Vision.
we go.
Yeah, so this is like Vision. At the end of the movie, looking back, What would Vision have said? We asked Google Bard, are you hashtag Team Cap or hashtag Team Iron Man? Straight up said, I am Team Cap. I believe that Captain America is right to believe that the Avengers should be free to operate without government interference. The Avengers are a group of highly trained and skilled individuals who have dedicated their lives to protecting humanity. They have a proven track record of success, and they are uniquely positioned to deal with the threats that the world faces.
There you go. There you go. That's
But I also, I also believe that Captain America is right to be concerned with the potential for government overreach. The Sokovia Accords would give the United Nations too much control. That's true. That is very true. And then it says about Iron Man, concerns about collateral damage. That is a huge issue.
So not that we put in any huge stake to what an AI has to say about this, but it is interesting that it said that. I wonder if it's auto-generated, and if you asked it again, would it say something different?
It says Team Cap all 3 times.
All 3 drafts
Yeah,
have
you can
Team
draft
Cap.
it multiple times.
And I think
says,
this is Cap's movie, right?
It is.
He should be the hero by
This
the end.
Captain
by the end of
America.
it.
But is he the hero at the end of it? Because he kind of goes off the rails. But we'll get into that. And I think
I think drastic times call for drastic measures, and
well,
this was a drastic time.
what I want to say is, though, like, the reason that there is such a debate is because of the performances. And I think I have to highlight one person in particular who steals the show. And I've got to go across teams here, because Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. gives, and I'm going to say a hot take here, gives his best performance as Iron Man across the MCU. I
can
think
see that.
he is so good in this movie. At the end, because it's 2v1 and he's just fighting these 2 people, and then at the end, the emotion that you feel from him. My father made that shield. That shield doesn't belong to you. Like, I physically, so many times in this movie, I'm sitting here and I am so invested in what Iron Man is doing. His performance, he really grows into the godfather of the MCU throughout phase 3. He's so good in this movie. I mean, he's so good in everything else, but shout out to Robert Downey Jr. I think you take
Is that
the cake
favorite character right there?
in everything. I mean, I'm going to go with Iron Man as my favorite character, weirdly enough.
Wow.
But the performance that he delivers in this movie, just his conversation with Cap after Cap gets arrested, and he brings out the pen and he's like, documents can be amended. His whole dude, I just man, and then the whole time I'm watching this, I'm like, man, do I miss the times where the MCU was so investing that I could sit here and just forget about everything else and just be in awe
Just
of
talk
the story
about the
that
movie.
I'm being treated with.
Remember when characters had depth?
Yeah.
Yes, it is though.
That's why this debate is so fun, because the writing is there for both sides. You know, like, sure, end of the day, Team Cap, with Google Bard 3 times, 3 different drafts says, Team Cap, and it breaks it down really nicely. But you watch the movie, it makes sense. It just does. Both sides are where they are. But something else very similar at the same time, also, DC was released in a movie similar times. Ben, I know you're very passionate about Batman v Superman.
Only their mothers had the same name.
Yeah, top review on Letterboxd. That is the argument. What
Ben,
were you gonna say though?
You love Batman v Superman more than anyone I've ever met.
Yes.
And I don't particularly love it. I don't particularly hate it. But most recent rewatch of Civil War, are you still say that Batman v Superman is better than Civil War?
Yes. Absolutely.
Writing.
Absolutely.
Are we talking
Writing wise, even more so, yes.
Are we talking extended edition or normal edition?
Performances, I really take issue with Jesse Eisenberg. But I
Definitely.
think Batman versus Superman, and it's not to get into this because it's definitely a Civil War review, but I think Batman versus Superman's writing is absolutely top notch. And it's no knock to Civil War. I praise the writing already, but I have more that I like, and more is complex with Batman v Superman. But I've also seen Batman versus Superman more times than Civil War. I love digging into the arguments that movie has online. And even today, you know, people are still, what are people talking about? You know, Civil War, or are they talking about Batman versus Superman? There's still an ongoing argument and debate on whether or not
Snyder
Batman
fans
versus
won't
Superman
let us forget. Come on.
It is good.
Come on.
But many people have issues with that film, and I think the extended cut makes it, you know, there's a lot of issues that Batman v Superman has. But again, I'm talking about two movies that I rate the same. I'm not going to give away my rating for Civil War, but I hold them very close. I think Batman versus Superman, for me personally, edges this out just a little bit.
Okay, strongly disagree.
Yes.
Heavily, but I don't want
Yeah.
to de-escalate into a debate about that because, all in all, one day we'll talk about Batman v Superman on this very podcast.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
Eventually.
So, yeah, that's not to take away anything from Civil War because I love both of these films. I would say I'm more invested in the characters of the MCU, for sure. There's one movie of build-up before Batman v Superman. There is 14 before Civil War. I'm obviously more invested in the characters. I just think as films, I like Batman v Superman a little better. But that's just me. I know it's not the popular opinion. But with this, what else do we want to say for this before Stan Lee cameo?
Critiques. Do we have
Ooh,
critiques
Great
for this
point.
movie?
Great point. Yep.
A big critique is that Bucky isn't fleshed out. He's kind of just there to be, in some ways, a damsel of distress, just trying to be protected the whole time. What do you guys think about that?
So, yeah, that's a good point because when the writing is so good for Cap, so good for Iron Man, you do get writing that's not as great for the other characters. Like, I think Ant-Man is a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Ant-Man's just trying to get back with his daughter. This is totally, right?
Why would he be in here?
Not the smart move for him. It's just not. And Tony bringing in Spider-Man, maybe as a guardian type thing, not the smartest move. And Clint leaves retirement to help fight in this battle. A lot of that.
They even question it mid-fight. I mean,
Yeah.
he's like, are we still friends? Depends on how hard you hit me.
Uh-huh.
And then he's pulling his punches.
Yeah.
So it's very clear that they don't want to fight. And I would have liked to see that a little bit more, some resistance between the other guys of like, oh, I'm not going to have a part in this. Like, I'm not going to sign. And then someone's like, all right, so since you're not signing, you're with them or something like that.
That is where the team up takes precedence for this big movie more so than the writing. Because why would
But,
Scott
I mean,
Lang or Hawkeye do
You
that?
can't deny. It's just such a fun sequence. It is.
It is.
It's
It is
so
fun.
fun.
Listen, the airport fight sequence is probably the best action sequence we've got in the MCU so far. Disagree? I think it's the
Spider-Man
best
sequence.
action sequence. The whole fight is so visually interesting, and I mean, here. So I praise and then critique. You're talking about critiques. I have two. One, green screen in the airport sequences. Some green screen looks absolutely atrocious. When Iron Man is talking to Cap in the airport sequences, looks horrible in my opinion.
Oh, like his suit?
Suit and then the background,
Yeah.
like the green screen
I
is
agree.
horrible. And then my second critique is the music is not good. It's Henry
okay.
Jackman. His one theme, the very intrigue, Zemo's theme is what you could call it. That's the only really standout theme. And there's no Avengers theme, not that there should be, but no Cap theme, no Iron Man theme. There's a lot that is left to be desired with the music in this movie. So, but that doesn't really take away from it. That's just a critique that I personally have.
Well, he was the one who did Big Hero 6, Winter Soldier.
And he did Winter Soldier, which the Winter
and
Soldier
X-Men First
soundtrack,
Class.
the Winter Soldier soundtrack is fantastic. So I don't really know what he was doing with this one, but I don't know. That's a critique that I have, though. Do you guys have anything else?
One critique I have is one of the trailers before the Blu-ray was just a behind-the-scenes how like what they did with a sponsorship with Audi.
No.
Like, why was that a trailer? It was like something you find in the behind-the-scenes footage. It was like interviews with a bunch of different cast. Yeah, we did this all no CG when we flipped that Audi in the middle of the.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It was very. Would you guys say that a lot of elements in this movie were parallel to Dark Knight? We had the underground car chase scene. We had the elements of what is right and what is wrong. We had the social manipulation. We had all these different things. We had the good guys taking the blame so that they can do the better thing.
Yes and no. I think a lot of those are pretty thematically resonant in many superhero films.
We haven't seen those much yet.
I
in
mean,
MCU.
what is right and what is wrong? That's a pretty universal theme, I feel like.
No. Like
And-
making the audience question what is right, what is wrong.
When do you question that in Dark Knight?
In Dark Knight,
Yeah, what's right?
it's who is. I mean, that's Harvey Dent's whole character.
Right.
That's
But end of the day, he's wrong.
yeah.
When-
I mean, at the end of the day, you know that.
That's true though. I get what you're saying when he's going to the lengths to take out the Joker thug, and he's like, I'm gonna take you down right here because you're not gonna tell me who the Joker is.
Yeah,
I
Civil
get that.
War is another movie saying that it's not all black and white, just like The Dark Knight.
I get that, and I mean it's definitely also a theme in Batman vs Superman, that's for sure. But
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of those themes that you mentioned are pretty resonant in, you know.
We just haven't
Many
seen one
other-
that's this strong in the MCU so
Okay,
far.
that one I will give to you. Yeah, I agree there.
This is our most Christopher Nolan-like movie.
I feel like, dude, I mean, there's not a lot to critique. The writing, yeah, you mentioned that a little bit. I just think besides that, I mean, music is minor. CGI in that one scene, minor. Everything
It
else.
keeps you pretty entertained for the
I
whole
mean,
thing.
seriously, the whole ending fight sequence is between the emotion that's dealt there. Did you know, Rogers? Don't bull crap me. Did you know? And right
that's
then and
good.
there, I'm sitting there like, holy crap. And there's silence, and then Cap looks at him and he's like, yes. And then he literally is so taken aback that one of his top teams from the Avengers knew this thing about his parents and didn't tell him. And it's so good. That
It
scene.
wasn't him.
It wasn't him, Tony.
I don't care. He killed my mom.
I don't even blame Tony in
Friends
that
don't
sequence.
lie.
You watch that, great Paul.
Yeah.
You watch that scene
I mean,
of
I
him
do it too.
brutally beating up Tony's parents, and I don't even blame Tony. Like, how do you sit there and watch that happen and then not want to go ballistic?
Yeah. How do you know that your parents' murder was in front of you the whole time? Also, it's interesting he said he killed my mom, not my parents. He killed my mom, not my dad and my mom. Killed
I
my
don't care.
mom.
We know his
shows
relationship
about
with
the
his
relationship.
dad is a little rough.
Yeah, we know that's rough.
Yeah.
And just the little things. That's cool.
Little thing that is fixed so expertly done in Endgame.
Little
Just
things
had
are
to
big
pull
now.
that there.
Another,
Go ahead.
all right, critique wise,
Ooh.
this is just a nitpick. The highway scene. Bucky's running on foot. T'Challa's chasing him on foot. There's a solid minute of Steve fully accelerating in a car. Doesn't catch them.
They're just so fast.
I think they're so freaking fast.
Ooh. Good critique.
Anthony
Yep.
Mackie, I don't really care for his quips. A lot of them were like, "Oh, that."
I like Tic Tac. That's about it.
I'm like, I don't really
Bird
like.
costume.
Same thing with Winter Soldier. Anthony Mackie's quips weren't the best. But to me, the biggest sin this movie did, and I think it's just because they wanted to see Cap kiss somebody, but Sharon Carter.
We didn't even talk about Sharon
having
Carter.
Sharon Carter in there, and
I agree.
especially with how Cap's arc concludes in Endgame, this feels like such a big misstep because you have that emotional scene where Peggy dies at the beginning of the movie, and then in the middle of the movie, just randomly, he's making out with the granddaughter.
Doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't work. And I think that is the biggest misstep they do with Cap's arc.
Great point. Great point.
And then Falcon and the Winter
That is a
Soldier.
good part, though.
They're,
They both
they're in
look
the
at
car.
him like-
They're just like, oh yeah.
They're just happy for their boy, you know, like, look at that. Yeah, dude, good stuff. I've never really been an Anthony Mackie Falcon huge supporter. I don't mind him, but I've never really cared about his character. And unfortunately, being the new Captain America, I still am not fully invested in him.
I mean,
Like,
it's been 18 projects since Captain America and Winter Soldier, and
Yeah.
we still haven't seen them. So
And
one
he's-
other line I do want
yeah.
to talk about is Spider-Man's kind of awkward line about Empire Strikes Back. You guys ever
Yes.
seen that really old movie?
kind of awkward.
Yeah. You guys ever seen that really old movie,
It's not
Empire Strikes
spoken like a
Back?
true nerd.
Yeah.
You know?
He would say Star Wars.
You've seen
Like,
Star Wars Empire
right,
Strikes
then
Back.
that's fair.
When
Yeah.
they're on Hoth, not Snow.
That
You know,
Snow
it's a
planet.
little like
Dude's
Okay.
got a
Who are they,
Macintosh
man?
in his room.
Well, okay, so I
They
take
build
that,
the Millennium Falcon in the next movie, or
I
the Death
take
Star, or
that
whatever.
as him trying to dumb it down for everyone else so that they can understand. If he said, "Oh yeah, the AT-AT's on Hoth," no one's gonna understand that.
That would have been cool though.
Oh, I agree.
That would have been so Peter Parker.
But I think he is.
Maybe it was opening it up to what they could write Peter Parker as. Maybe they wouldn't make him so nerdy this time, but more geeky.
That's fair.
But no, I like what you said, Ben, because it's like this is big shot. His first time working with the Avengers. He doesn't know how they talk. He doesn't know how into the movie references they are. So yeah, it feels like that's how I feel whenever I'm talking to anyone.
Oh yeah.
It's so hard to talk to other people about the MCU when they're not like right here.
Yeah.
Because you have to I immediately feel dumber talking about Marvel when people don't I feel like the stupid one.
Yep.
So it because you have to dumb it down so much and then you just lost for words. So it makes sense that he would say that.
It just feels awkward to me because he says the line and everyone understands what he's talking about. So like he could have said Star Wars.
Yeah.
And no one like goes after him like, you mean like Star Wars or something? I don't know. And so they say, how old is this kid?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense, but I don't know. I feel like they should have dogged on him for just not saying Star Wars. And Hoth, like, oh, you mean Hoth? Because everyone knows Hoth.
True.
Opening shot in Empire.
Quick poll here. I like what they do with Rhodey in this movie.
Yeah.
I think Rhodey's got some good moments, actually. Like,
Okay, this is just director said this. Secret Invasion director said Rhodey's been a Skrull since this movie, since Civil War.
Hate that.
Until that's confirmed in an actual project, until that's confirmed by Kevin
When
Feige,
in this
that is
movie?
not true.
Was it directly
At all.
after this
No way.
movie?
It would be when he was in the hospital. Yeah.
Okay.
So I hate that, especially for what it does for Rhodey's character in Infinity War and Endgame. Awful. But I don't like directors are not really given the reign that they used to be in the MCU. So
No.
I don't take that as gospel. I don't take that as that is when he's Skrull. I think later in his movie Armor Wars, they'll throw something around like, oh, when this happened, because I hate that it would be a Skrull for Tony's death, and I refuse to accept that, honestly.
No. He comes up. He's one of the few characters who actually gets to see him, and he has a great moment at the end of this movie. 136 combat missions. You know, I didn't know if I was going to come back, but I flew him. Like, that's such a great line from Rhodey. Like, he gets some genuine character development in here. And I will say, best suit. Best War Machine suit. It's so good.
I've got a question. Did Vision miss?
On purpose?
Did he miss, or was that where he was aiming?
Right.
I mean, he said, I was distracted.
I missed. He was distracted because
that's a quote from
let's
Daredevil.
So you talked earlier about what does Vision want in this movie. He pretty clearly says what he wants.
He wants
man.
Mommy Wanda.
He wants Mommy Maximoff, man. I'm telling you right now. Because look, he literally says it. He's like, she asks him, "What do you want?" And Vision says, "For the world to see you as I do."
Oh,
and he's definitely got
a
pinch.
I
mean, come on.
He wants a pinch.
Oh, can we blame him? Can we really blame him? He was distracted. She's sitting right there, man. He instantly goes right up there. I mean, come on.
Tiny dude's big now.
Whoa. Does he even have a tiny dude? I don't know, man. Anyway, yeah, I think also in relation to that Rhodey scene, this is my favorite Stan Lee cameo.
I was just about to say that.
Stank? Come on, that is beautiful. I took that and used that as my username for a lot of things after this.
Tony Letterboxd.
Tony Stank, you know, that's literally my letterboxed. So Tony Stank is great. I
love Rhodey's reaction to it too.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, Skrull Rhodey.
See, it just ruins it. Like it takes me out of it.
Not Skrull Rhodey.
No, not Skrull Rhodey. I don't think.
Not my Rhodey.
Do we want to talk about give Zemo any more praise at all?
Daniel Bruhl's great.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have issue with his plan because it's all over the place.
I love how separate he is from like the main characters for a long time.
That is a critique I see a lot. Baron Zemo's plan is just too complex. Really? Do you want to talk about? Let's talk about the Dark Knight then. If we're talking about a plan that's too complex, like I don't think your villain being a super genius should be thrown in there. You know?
I think the Dark Knight works because the Joker is just chaos.
I think the post-credit scenes were a little on the weaker side. Wouldn't you say? Like the Black Panther one? That one was cool, but then the Spider-Man one was more of just a...
So I think looking back on it, yes, it is very, they're kind of on the weaker side. But the first time you go and see that, I was so extremely excited for Black Panther and Spider-Man. Where are they going to take these characters? They really hit in 2016. And looking back on all of these post-credit scenes, I'm honestly like, nah. But we know where the story's going. We know how it ends. So that's just where I look at it, though.
I feel like Black Panther, looking back, I wish he was utilized more. I mean, that could just be me wishing Chadwick Boseman was in more movies, but I watched Black Panther after Infinity War.
Oh.
Wow.
I think after like Captain Marvel and stuff too.
After he died?
No, not after he died.
No, what I'm saying is after he perished in Infinity War.
Oh yeah, I saw it. I've seen it once, and then it was nominated for Best Picture. I was like, oh, well. Now I feel like I'm too cool if I watch it a second time.
Ooh.
I don't want to do that.
True.
Oh man, yeah. We'll talk about that. But
Yeah, I can't wait to watch it again. Actually, it was. I remember enjoying it.
Black Panther's great. I love Black Panther. But that's a conversation for another day. What we need right now from you gentlemen is favorite character in this movie. I already said mine. Mine's Iron Man.
Yeah.
Sorry, I kind of took him early.
You did.
That's fine.
Which is kind of my fault. I'm sorry. I got to go Iron Man, though. I've kind of already explained. His performance is fantastic in this movie. I think the fact that he hasn't gotten some recognition for this character in the awards sanction is kind of a crime. I'm not going to lie.
Yes.
Because he is so good. But Ethan, do you have one or should we go to Micah first?
I'll go. I've taken Tony so many times. I think every Avengers movie that Tony's in, I always take Tony. I do think, like you said, this is his best performance, best writing, I think, in this movie. But I'm not going to take him because you've taken him. I want to spread it out. I'm going to take Baron Zemo.
Ooh,
I like Baron Zemo. I love the performance, the way he's brought to life. He just does. He's really our first MCU villain that doesn't get in a fist fight of any kind, other than Justin Hammer, the great Justin Hammer. He's just there. He's a presence. Like not to compare him to the Joker again, but he doesn't get in that fist fight. He doesn't get in a fist fight at the end of the movie like the Joker does. Yeah, just like the Dark Knight. But it ends differently. I like he's not that physical threat, but he's that mental threat, which is something that we don't really get a lot.
Yeah,
and I like what that brings to this movie. Like, who's the best person to fight the Avengers? The Avengers. Pit them against each other. It works so well. Love the performance. Just he's so captivating with
his
the way
too.
Yeah, his motive is good and it's fun. Yeah, I like him a lot.
I liked him on his phone.
The scene at the end, like when Martin Freeman, who we haven't even talked about, he's not much of a presence in this movie, but he shows up and he's like,
Is he a
"To
scroll
see
here?
As a scroll?
Is he a scroll here?
Who knows?
I have a better one. Who cares?
Who cares?
He asks him to see your plan. How does it feel to see your plan fail so spectacularly? And looks him in the eye so confidently. Did it?
Did it?
Oh, and it leaves him, even him, Martin Freeman. He's like, just kind of looks and ponders the question real quick. Great moment.
Because would Infinity War be different if the Avengers were together at the start?
Iron Man sure seems to think so in Endgame. You said we do that together too. Well, guess what, Cap? Dude, I can't.
He said the Oppenheimer quote. He thought we might start a chain reaction that would destroy the entire world. I believe we did.
I believe we did. Micah, favorite character?
My favorite character is Vision in this movie. I think that he stands out to me as one of the best portrayals of Vision in a movie. Just because we see his motives. We see his restraint to not use all of his power because he doesn't need to. He doesn't want to. It's not like, sometimes you get those super strong characters, Captain Marvel, for instance, who could wipe out an entire army, but she doesn't because plot reasons. But in this, Vision doesn't because he has a moral reason not to. He doesn't want to. because it's not right. And that's good. Because he is a morally good character. He sees everything, he considers it all, and he forms an opinion. And that's great. I love how he's written this movie. I love his interactions with Wanda, the beginnings of that relationship, how he's making paprika. Pretty cool.
Paprikash.
Paprikash.
Yeah.
Paprika, pinch of paprika. I love how he's slowly, or maybe we can order a pizza instead. Like he's not very good at hiding things. He's just a charming character.
Yeah.
Well, he is charming, but there's that one scene in the when they're at the airport battle, and everyone's running, everything's going crazy,
He draws
and he
the line.
stops. Captain Rogers, you may think you're in the right, and he draws the line in the sand practically between the two sides, and it's like the super intimidating version of Vision. Like he could totally take you down.
Oh, yeah.
Man. Great poll. Vision and Zemo.
It was funny. I thought that when he draws the line, I felt like they were much closer, but then they do full-on sprints for a couple seconds leading into the like jumping into the first clash.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good point. I didn't think about that.
And we know how fast they can run. We saw them in the highway scene.
That's true. That's true.
All right, real quick, some stats. Do you wanna go through some like? This made a lot of money.
Oh,
This made a butt ton of money, man. This
read
was
it
like
off, man.
this was what, our fourth or fifth movie that made over $1 billion. Crazy.
Third, I believe.
So there was Spider-Man,
fourth, yeah.
there was Iron Man 3. Here, let me organize it by Monet's. We've got the Avengers, Ultron, Iron Man 3, Civil War, and yeah, those are all our movies that made over $1 billion.
You're saying Iron Man 3 made more money than Civil War?
Yeah.
Wow, that's shows how big Iron Man was, that's
I
for
know.
sure. Interesting.
And the budget for Civil War was $250.
yeah, that
Oof.
this is when they started giving the beefy
I mean,
budgets.
it's no Ultron. 365. And Endgame at 400. But man, that's a lot of dough.
That's a lot of money. I mean, it paid off. $1 billion, man. The big team up movie.
What do you guys think? Scores? We doing scores now?
Favorite scene.
Oh, favorite scene.
You gotta
You're right.
do
You're right.
favorite scene, man. You can't forget about the favorite scene. Do either of you have one?
I just like Spidey in the airport.
Spidey in the airport.
Yeah,
That's what
fighting
you're gonna
Bucky
say.
and Falcon. That was pretty cool. I liked his quips. I already talked about it a little bit, but yeah, it's cool. Just it's a way to show Spider-Man's introduction.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, he's strong. You don't have to be like, oh yeah, Mr. Stark, I can lift all this weight and
Yeah.
look, I can do the webs and no, they just show it.
You see his battle IQ firsthand. Yeah. Really
That's
the
cool.
first on-screen fight, probably the best first on-screen fight for a Spider-Man. I mean, but Toby's is pretty good though. I mean, he fights the guy in the ring or
Your husband make it for you?
Oh man. If you have one,
I got one.
Okay, go ahead.
The scene where the Sokovia Accords are first presented and they're all in that room
was good.
arguing. That's just, I don't know. I love a good airport fight scene, but a good table argument is also great too. Tony lays out his case. He puts up the image of the kid that died. He presents it like why emotionally he's going to sign the Accords. And then Cap's like, I can't. I love that scene. So good.
oh man.
Yeah, while we're talking about that scene, really quick. Should this have been an Avengers movie? Just like, should it have been titled Avengers? Yes or no?
No, it works where it is.
Okay. And do you think Hulk and was there another Avenger missing?
Thor.
Do you think they should have been in this movie?
No.
They have their reasons for
you
being
get
wrong for it.
Ragnarok, which is great, and like because if Infinity War came out and Infinity War sucked or it felt like it was too quick, then maybe it should have been like, okay, Civil War should have been that Avengers movie. But it was Infinity War is so great, this movie's so good. No point do I think that this shouldn't have happened.
Okay.
And you do get that argument. Okay, this is the end of Cap's trilogy. It kind of does
I'm
it
excited
work
to
in
see
that
a score for
capacity? Yeah. But I think it works. I like it.
I do
It's a
too.
great movie.
I agree.
So I'm gonna go with the
Tony Stark.
scene with Tony Stark when it's revealed that Bucky kills his parents.
That was good.
For many reasons. you are shown this car crash where the Winter Soldier goes and retrieves this serum for these Winter Soldiers, the other Winter Soldiers. You were shown it twice before the third time where you see it, where it's finally revealed that Tony's parents were in there. So many plot threads from the beginning of this movie tie into this moment that you don't even think about until this moment. You have Tony talking about his parents and how he regrets on how he left things before they perished. And then you find out in that moment that Bucky was the one to take a, and the scene is brutal, where Bucky is slamming his fist into Tony's dad, and then he goes and absolutely chokes out his mom. Like, dude, it is so brutal. And straight up, again, why Tony's the best actor in this movie. He sits there and he knows this road. I know that road. What is this? And you can hear the falter in his voice,
cadence,
and he's like, what is this? And he's not ready for it. He's totally taken off guard, and he sits there, watches the tape, and he's in silence, and he makes a move right towards Bucky, and Cap stops him. And the emotion drawn from that scene leads so perfectly into the fight, because then when it becomes more than just a fight, when you are more invested in the story and the reasons why they're fighting than just that, it becomes something else entirely. And it's all because of the great scene right there that Zemo perfectly constructs this moment for Tony to see that Bucky killed his parents. And that scene for me takes the cake. There's no scene that even comes close. That scene is so good.
And I'll say, in that scene, the first time in the theater, I was really questioning, is Cap gonna kill Tony here? When he has that shield and Tony's mask is off, I'm like, oh, we're not gonna see a beheading, are we? I thought that in the theater. Goes right in the arc reactor, which would have killed Tony one movie ago.
Yeah. And I even remember rumors leading up to this film, real quick, that who's going to die? This is Captain America's third film. Is Captain America going to die? Is Iron Man going to die? We didn't know the grand plan of the MCU. For a while, this movie was titled Captain America, The Serpent Society, before even Civil War was a thing. So before the grand plan was there, it was Captain America 3, is Cap going to die? So obviously that didn't happen, and we had to wait a while for their stories to conclude. There was still much more story to tell, but there were rumors going into this. If you remember, in 2015 leading up, who's gonna die? So,
and just anyone who ever hate, because now it's easy to look back on the MCU as a whole, say that's not cinema, it's just stories being told. But you can't watch this movie, look at the writing and say that this isn't cinema, because it just is. You could highlight the airport scene, all the action, the spectacle, all the characters in there. But at the end of the day, this is a Tony versus Cap movie. And I think that is so present.
Yep. And the emotion and the writing that you can draw from those characters. But now, gentlemen, we read ours.
Let's hear what the internet has to say.
See what the reporter has to say.
That's what I want to know.
So what'd you guys say, what kind of level is this movie sitting on here?
For the Hollywood Reporter, I think
Reporter.
they botched this one. I do.
Yeah?
I think this is one of the ones that they say it's not very good.
Probably.
I feel that. I'm going 20 to 30 range on this.
Oof.
I'm going 27. I'm
27?
Yeah.
You guys would be pretty close if you were talking about the Screen Crush ranking. They ranked it at 24.
Okay.
That's pretty crazy. But the Hollywood Reporter, the infamous ranking system, is it above or below Into the Spider-Verse?
Oh, okay. Well, at least we're in a good bucket
below.
range.
Below?
I think it's below.
I'm going to say below.
Okay.
Spider-Verse, I think, was 18, if I remember.
No. Spider-Verse was 13. Civil War was 14.
Ooh.
All right. Okay. You
Yeah,
know what?
15
Okay.
is Ant-Man and the Wasp. 16 is Age of Ultron, just to give us a little bit of
Yes.
range. Ant-Man is 11.
Oh, big list.
Oh, yeah, Ant-Man's better than Civil War, guys, for
and
sure.
then our next Marvel movie? Isn't that Doctor Strange, right?
On the list for what we're
Our next
watching.
Marvel MCU movie. I think
Yes,
it's
Doctor Strange.
That one's up there too, above Civil War. So get ready for that. Well, let's see what the internet thinks. So the internet, Rotten Tomatoes critic is a 90, audience is an 89,
Close.
Metacritic is a 75, Metacritic user is an 8.0, IMDb is a 7.8, and a Letterboxd is a 3.6 out of 5, giving them an average of 80. Placing it at 16th place, which is lower than the Hollywood Reporter rating.
16.
Wow.
I mean, 80 is still a high score, but 16.
We got some competition.
That's interesting, man.
Because this, I'd say this is one of the higher tier movies that we've seen.
Well, Micah,
Let's go
give
into
us
it.
your score,
Yeah.
man.
The
What do
writing
you
is
think?
there. I think this is one of the best. I mean, Ben, you've been praising it the whole time. Ethan, you've been praising it. I've been praising it. The acting in this movie is so well done. I love the emotion. I think this is finally the movie where all of the characters are on the same page. They all are familiar with their characters. They know what they're trying to do, and they can give their all in this. And I might regret this later.
Ooh. I did see your letterbox
I did
score,
too.
so I'm wondering how high you're gonna go.
I
here.
round up for Letterboxd.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
I'll give this bad boy a 9.5.
Oh,
Whoa, right out of the gate.
Micah,
Spider-Man 2 was my highest,
what was that?
9.5.
Oh,
So this matches that.
I feel like Spider-Man 2 needs to be higher,
can't change
but
that.
there's just not
Yeah,
enough room.
you
There's
can't
not-
go back,
I
'cause
didn't give myself enough room.
Here's the thing, man.
I gave it a 9.5 because that's like the middle. Like, okay, that gives me some room.
The middle.
That's the middle of the nines, right?
middle
Okay,
of
so
peak.
if you're thinking that Spider-Man is better than this,
Yeah.
then maybe Civil War needs to be a
9.4?
like maybe a little bit
But
lower.
I think it's better than the Winter Soldier at a 9.4.
Oh, interesting.
That's how close
Okay,
it is for me,
okay.
right?
9.45.
Okay, I can live with that.
Go there.
I can live with that.
All right, now we're just getting. Now we're just
I can
getting
live with that.
screwy.
9.45. We'll do it. 9.45. Boom. Ben, what do you think?
All right. Okay. I will. I'll take it. Yeah. I'm gonna. This is good stuff, man. This is the mark off for Phase 3 is very apparent here. This is really where I started getting into my MCU fandom. Just when it was coming out in theaters, I saw this 4 times. It was the first time I saw a Marvel movie more than once at the theater because I had my own car, so I was able to go more often. I took my buddy to see it. I took my brothers to see it. I mean, it was huge. It was an event. Movie, television, it was huge, and I was so invested there for the whole film. And I still to this day, I'm not the biggest fan. I think Winter Soldier beats this out for sure. Winter Soldier is the better, I think the best of the 3 Captain America films. And I actually think if I was to rank these, I think this is the weakest Captain America film as what it goes, because I think because of its focus on all of the Avengers. I think a Captain America movie should be mainly focused on Captain America, and the first 2 are. This one focuses on everyone else. And so I think as far as Captain America goes, I think this is the weakest Captain America film, but I'm still giving this a high score, man. I'm giving this a 9. I think this is fantastic. Wow. I'm not sure that I would go 9.5. I think there are some issues.
I settled on a 9.4.
Okay. I think there definitely are some issues with this one. I love doing this podcast because I'm made aware and remember the Sharon Carter thing I'm not a fan of. That's a big one. The music is definitely very weak in this one, and some shoddy CGI, man.
You could throw Wanda's accent in there too.
Yes, you could throw that in there. I really don't
Those
care.
didn't bother me. Yeah, like they
mean,
were there, but
Elizabeth Olsen, man, I kind of. So yeah, and so I just kind of go.
All's forgiven. All's forgiven.
I just kind of
he's
go
giving her a pass.
past that.
Any other actress?
There are some issues that I have with it, so I'm giving this a 9 versus your 9.4. Still a fantastic movie, Mr. Wentzloff.
I guess I'll go the highest here. I'm gonna go
10.
higher than both. No, it's not.
What?
My-
You've given.
You know what?
gave-
I love your case because these MCU is my favorite favorite film series. These are my favorite movie characters. So the MCU is the closest you can get to serialized television on the big screen with the big budget. So you know what? How many 10s have I given out? 2?
2.
I have the first Avengers, and then I have Winter Soldier. Do I want to give this a 10? I'm going to take this time to talk about, we haven't talked about her enough, Scarlett Johansson.
We didn't talk about ScarJo at all.
Man, that's
great
a great
character. The way, like, she is the line in this movie between fighting for the cause you believe in and just friendship.
Yep.
Friendship with these characters, with Clint, with Steve. She stops T'Challa from getting Bucky right there. She lets him get on the Quinjet and fly to the final act. She is a force in this movie. She stands the line. She stands with Tony, but she also knows Cap's my friend. This is my guy. So she finds the balance where we have Team Cap, Team Iron Man. You know, maybe I'm Team Nat, because I think I said that earlier, didn't I? I said first half of the movie I'm with Tony, second half I'm with Cap.
Did.
So I think I'm Team Nat. Team
There
Black,
you go.
Black
Team
Widow.
Nat.
So there we go. But heck, why not? I'll give this a 10.
Wow.
Give this, I like handing out my 10s to these movies because I love these movies.
Because you're the lowest average of all. Yeah,
Because
I know.
I'm the
gotta bring
lowest
it up,
average. I
man.
gotta throw that up there. The thing is, what y'all ain't going 10s because you're scared of them.
I am
But
scared.
once I start handing out 10s, it's like I love these movies. I do.
I'm saving them for the end of
I
phase
love them
3.
because
yeah.
then at the end of this marathon, when I have 20 10s, then I can say, all right, let me rank these 20 10s. It makes it easier on me. Let's just do
Okay.
that.
That's fair. That is definitely
I'm
fair.
just ranking them as I go. So, Ethan with your 10, Ben with your 9, and me with my 9.4. Sorry, I hesitated because I was looking at our Winter Soldier scores. Because I've already got this thing ranked, man. That gives us a 9.467.
I like it.
And those little numbers mean all the difference. Because the Avengers, we gave it a 10, a 9.5, and an 8.8, giving it an average of 9.43. 9.43 versus a 9.46.
Ooh.
Civil War beats out the Avengers,
Wait, hold on. Wait a
taking our
minute.
second place spot.
What did we give Avengers?
Ben, you gave it
Taking
a
our second place spot.
our second place spot.
Okay, all right. You know what? I'm
Yeah.
okay with that.
Ben, you gave Avengers a 9.5.
Okay, I'm okay with. What did you give Avengers?
8.8.
Didn't you
I
like?
wasn't super hot on it.
Yeah, you're right.
I was like, okay, this
all
is
right.
good, but it could be better.
Okay,
10.
as long as it's not taking the
10.
place of
I think
number
it's
one.
all of Ethan's 10s are the reason why they're up at the top.
Guys,
'Cause
I control this list. Just look at it. I do. I'm the deciding factor.
So this is number 2.
I am the danger. This is number 2.
Holy cow!
Taking Thor out of the top 10.
Oh.
Taking
Dang, man.
the Wolverine out of the top 20. And the Punisher out of the top 30.
Wow.
Shout
Shout out to Ben's
and
support.
officially
Hey.
Hey, putting Ghost Rider
wait
Speed
a
of Vengeance in 41st place. Let's go.
Oh my gosh.
And for
on.
all you Daredevil stands, that's 37th now.
I've got a shout out here. Rye Guy FI4ZX here.
Sky Guy.
Listen, man. You absolutely get it, man. You absolutely get my Punisher take.
Punisher?
There is someone else out there who understands the Punisher take. I sent it in the group chat. You are an absolute legend. You understand where I'm coming from. I knew there was someone out there who agreed with me.
Yeah.
And you get a shout out right there.
You can go on the internet, find people who think all these things.
Even though it just got out of 30th place in our 8-out ranking.
All right, so that
In our
wraps up
heart, yeah.
the Captain America trilogy.
Ooh, trilogy ranking.
Trilogy ranking.
What do we
All right,
got
so
here?
first Avenger, we ranked it an 8.33.
Okay.
Winter Soldier, 9.8. Civil War, 9.47. That averages to a 9.2.
Ooh.
Highest trilogy for
That's-
sure.
Yeah, highest
Yeah.
trilogy for sure, because
Easily.
Raimi trilogy averaged an 8.1.
Yeah.
Out of the park,
Not
man.
even close.
Where was what?
What's
we didn't
Iron
look
Man
at all right,
trilogy?
so hold on.
Oh yeah, what did
Winter
no.
Soldier was first place. Civil War is second place. First Avenger is 10th place.
As long as it's still in the top 10.
What's our top 5?
Top
Micah?
5. Winter Soldier, 9.8. Civil War, 9.46. The Avengers, 9.4. Fourth place is Days of Future
I
Past.
was wondering where Days of
go.
Future Past was.
Let's go.
Yeah.
9.1. Spider-Man 2, number 5
Wow.
at an 8.9.
Wow.
Guys, Spider-Man 2 will be out soon.
I just think that it's
Guardians,
a testament to
number 6.
how freaking good Spider-Man 2 is, that it's still in
Hanging on.
2016 in the top 5. It's so good. I love that.
Do you guys think Spider-Man 2 is going to make it through the top 10 by the end of this?
I think he'll hold on. I do, because
At least
No.
top 15 for me.
No, I don't.
I mean, personally for
There
me,
is a
it's
lot.
top 5.
it's
but
your number one still, right?
still number 1, yeah. But
Hanging
like,
on to that Raimi.
Infinity War and Endgame are such amazing
Yeah,
movies.
I just think
And Logan is so good.
if it's 5 now,
And X-Men Apocalypse, next week's movie.
into the yeah, that's right. Next week, folks, we got X-Men Apocalypse. Now, we were super hot on X-Men Days of Future Past. Very hot. It's still in our top
Love it.
5. Can
Number
this
4?
movie,
Yeah.
I've only seen this movie once before.
I have too.
I don't
Never
remember
seen it.
being very hot on it, but I don't remember being as hot on Days of Future Past, and it's in our top 5. So that's next week. So we've got that to look forward to. And then after that, we've got, what is after that? Doctor Strange?
Doctor Strange.
Which I'm greatly looking forward to, because that
And that wraps up
good stuff,
2016.
yeah, we're
Wow.
slowly plugging. I
Oh,
like
also, X-Men Apocalypse wraps up our Future Past trilogy.
that's true.
Because after that, it's just Logan, and then we get into the garbage New Mutants
Crap.
and Dark Phoenix. And
The absolute
Yeah.
crap.
Before we close this out, I just want to once again give the Russo brothers a shout out for
yes.
what they did. You could say that they saved the MCU in a way. The MCU wasn't going downhill by any way, but just the juice they brought to Winter Soldier, the juice they brought to this, and then
Cut
they get
the
to go
check.
do the 2 Avengers movies after this. They hugely impacted. I think the Russo brothers and James Gunn and whatever Feige was doing, they ushered in this era that we love so much, and they deserve the credit. But I love their two big callbacks I noticed when I watched this movie to their time in TV. You have Tim Rash as he plays Dean on Community. He has a great scene with Tony Stark in this. And then the airport scene, you the iconic Arrested Development Bluth stairmobile in the background.
Yeah.
I love them giving their homages to TV, because that's where they came from.
That is true. After seeing Arrested Development, now watching Civil War for the first time after seeing that made me smile. That's for sure. Just like we hope that this podcast makes you
amazing.
smile at
Amazing.
home, because as much as we love doing it, we also love seeing the engagement
Comments
that you
are
guys can
just so fun.
See, and
Yeah.
they really are.
Yeah.
Even if
so much fun.
even if they are really crapping on our takes, that's what I love so much about this.
that people are listening to our tapes.
Well, so, and it's just, that's my big thing of part of the reason why I love doing this, because it's talking with people about this stuff. Even in today's world where this stuff is much more popular now, it's not as uncommon to talk about this stuff with people, but I go to my job, there's about one person that I can have a full-blown conversation about. It's still not as big. So getting this opportunity to sit down and talk with you guys is a treat, but it's also a treat to
You're
sit
a
down and
treat, Ben.
hear what you guys have to say.
snack, Ben.
Wow, that's too much praise. but it is. It's so much fun. So we love doing this because it's an interesting experiment, but we also love to hear what you guys have to say, because the passion that you guys can bring to this is just so fun. So we have no plans to certainly stop here. We're definitely going to finish this out. Ahsoka is out. We've had 2 episodes premiered as of the recording of this podcast. We don't really have a lot of time, but let us know if you want thoughts. There's a lot going on in that show that is very interesting for what's set up. So if you want to hear us talk about it, let us know.
Blue Beetle just came out, the newest film of the DC universe. DC, we don't know anymore. James Gunn said it's a fresh start. Micah, we'd never sat down to podcast about. We were going to. You got anything you want to say about Blue Beetle? Well, we have the mics.
Dune 2 was delayed.
Dune 2 is still made.
Oh, I'm laughing,
Sad
but I'm
man.
actually sad,
Sad
man.
man.
Oof. That's all I've got to say about
I want
Blue
George
Beetle.
Lopez in the MCU.
Micah, Ben, you didn't watch Blue Beetle yet, did you?
No, I did not.
Really tight.
I
Let us know
honestly,
if you really want a Blue Beetle podcast. Me and Micah will guster up the gusto to do it, but
Tune in next week for X-Men Apocalypse. I'm really
Yeah,
excited.
let's just be real.
I can't wait for our second X-Men MCU head-to-head May release. Amazing Spider-Man 2 and X-Men Days of Future Past both came out in May 2014. And now we have Captain America Civil War and X-Men Apocalypse coming out in May 2016. Why did they do that?
Yeah, I don't
Why not
know.
just wait till it's summer?
Who can say? Who can really say? But I think that does it, gentlemen, for
Think so.
Captain America Civil War.
yeah.
Stay tuned for more to come. Otherwise, this is Ben Rayside.
this is Ethan Westloff.
This is Micah Het.
Signing off. We all hope you have an absolutely fantastic day.
All right, now, which team are you on? Are you hashtag Ben, hashtag Ethan, hashtag Micah,
I think we concluded. Hashtag Team Nat at the end of this.
hashtag Team Pete?
Does anybody have any orange slices?